November 17th through 20th of 2017 marked the first ever XKCD Game Jam, a jam based after the XKCD webcomics by Randall Munroe. I personally had never heard of the strip until I saw a promotional tweet for said jam and said to myself, how are human beings supposed to make video games on a comic strip about the thoughts of stick figures? Needless to say, I was intrigued. And the results, ranging from a geocaching MMO to an entirely text-based version of Counter-Strike, have been some of the most creative concepts and ideas I have ever seen in design. And today, on the first ever episode of Game Jammer's Spotlight, I wanted to call attention to those ideas and try my best to explain why they work. Let's begin. Now, before I say what I think are the most memorable entries in the jam, I feel there needs to be some honorable mentions for the games that didn't try to be anything grand, amazing, or new, but were just made to make the player smile. And also recognition to the games that didn't have new ideas big enough for much discussion, but were all-around polished experiences worth your time. Starting with the more humorous games, we have Escalauncher, a quote, terrible person simulator, where you launch 2D ragdoll characters off an escalator for points, a Mole of Moles, a clicker with at least 70 mole puns, Binary Sudoku, in which the creator apologizes for in-game, Infinite Saber, a game which needs no explanation, and a full recreation of the XKCD version of Frogger, which is just wonderful. And for honorable mentions with the most polish, we have Elevator, The Enemies Are Us, Red Spiders Cometh, Bobby Tables, Bun Snap, and Where Do Birds Go When It Rains. With those efforts recognized, we'll see how these next games presented or proved a concept worthy of more discussion. Starting with Chess Intelligence Agency, a puzzle game about navigating a stage as various chess pieces, while maintaining the movement rules applied to them. Also Hell, a game which decides to warp the rules of popular games to give you a terrible disadvantage. Both games have received extremely positive feedback, with both being called complete experiences by reviewers, even though both are only about 3 minutes long. I decided to group these two games together because they seem to share the same idea of assuming players know the rules of the games, giving them an accelerated but full experience of the 4-step Kisho Tenketsu inspired design, in which a concept is introduced, developed, twisted, and then tested. By this method of using known and developed rules, they can immediately twist the concept in unique ways. Another game that does this well is Hack and Drive, which, in assuming you have played a driving game and know how to navigate your own computer, it combines the two in a frantic multitasking chase scene. The final game I noticed that used this ideology is called Accident, which is essentially a 2D version of Katamari Damacy. Yet not every game needs to be built off other concepts to be great. New concepts I saw were Antique Factory, a short game about controlling time to raise the price of objects to then sell them, all while trying to maintain for the character's needs. Although this concept is not played with too much in its current state, the creator plans to update the project and add to the initial concept. Another concept presented at the jam was in Techno, a game where the same 15 seconds of a randomly generated level are repeated at least 8 times, and at the end, your score for each run is shown to see how much you have improved. Although a great concept, it seems like something that can be developed and twisted further. Finally, for notable new concepts, we have Drone Problems, a game which uses the entire keyboard as a controller by timing your key presses to movement, as shown here. For my next category, I've picked out 3 games which I think really captured immersive game feel. Starting with Lunar Swimming, a game which involves swimming in a low-gravity environment, in which the more airtime you get, the more points you receive for gaining new abilities. Next, we have Cuttlefish Factory 5, which, while obviously not a looker, uses its enemy placement and rechargeable cannon to create a rhythm where you must time every shot carefully. Then, as our third entry, we have the Loic Complex, which, although having a fair bit of problems with enemy and health placement, it had satisfying movement. Though it is fun, I think the most notable aspect of the game is the museum, a small optional area where you learn about the developers and can find several XKCD comics twisted in unique ways. This idea of developing written materials with a gaming twist is something done extremely well in Kevin Tan's creatively named XKCD Game Jam, where it finds a logical flaw in an XKCD comic and has you experience the issue without directly telling you immediately, giving players an aha moment when discovered. The idea of concepts staying with you when experienced versus being informed about is something done in XKCD The Beginning, a simple clicker which puts you in the shoes of Randall Munroe, the creator of the XKCD comics, and although you don't have control over what choices you make, by making those choices, you build efficiency in-game, and then they become much easier to recall. So after games about comedy, about polish, parody, game feel, concepts, and proving a point through mechanics, I found one final game which was able to accomplish enough to fit into all the listed categories. That game, of course, being The Man Who Fell Sideways. I don't really know what else to say, other than it organically teaches its concepts, then hits you with twist after twist after twist, with no 2 coins collected feeling the same, and actually having you care for a relationship through mechanical dependence, and even an ending which is just blissful. What, you thought I'd actually show you it here? No, I have nothing more to say than grab a friend if you want, and start the experience. Any analysis I do would be spoiling it, and I don't feel like ripping that away from anyone. But with the music, art, and story all reinforcing a single mechanic, which is used and twisted countless times, The Man Who Fell Sideways works, and seems to represent the jam as a whole, with its unique take on visualized literature. Jams like these are what I believe the industry needs. Jams that bring together all ages and ideas for the experience the jammers and the industry as a whole obtain. And isn't that what it's all about? Advancement of this new art? Anyway, hopefully you learned something from this jam as well as I. And that's it for today. I'll catch you all next jam.